Today we're going to be talking about some new ideas. We're going to be going forward talking about notation. Basically, the best way to talk about it is like it's learning a new language. If you were going to learn Spanish or English or French or any other foreign language to you, you would learn it in almost the same way that you would learn to read music. Which is kind of cool because it also has a math twist to it too. So not only are we working with language aspect, but we're also doing a good bit of counting, and I'll explain why that's special for drummers in a different way than it is to people who play, say, guitar. So let's start with the whole note. That's what this is right here. It's a picture of a whole note. It's a circle, almost like a donut. So you can remember the whole note by the way that it looks by saying it goes the whole way around. It's a circle, it's a whole note. That means we hold that note for the whole measure, whatever measure that is. We're going to be using measures of 4 just to make this simple to start. So this is going to be held for 4 beats. Now here's where it gets interesting. If I were a guitar player, let's pretend I'm a guitar player for a second, and I play a whole note, I'm going to hold that note out for 4 beats, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then stop it. So I'll do that again. I'm going to hold it out for 4 beats, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's how we would play a whole note on an instrument that sustains, that holds the note, right? Drums aren't like that, are they, though? Drums, we strike the instrument, and the sound sort of just decays right then and there, right? So here's a whole note on the drum. I'm going to play this for you here. 1, 2, here we go. 2, 3, 4. That's it. So all I did was strike the instrument, count 4 beats, right? So let's loop that. This is going to be the easiest thing you've done all day. We're going to loop whole notes. We're going to play 1 whole note each measure. And we'll do that 4 times at this tempo. So feel free to play along with me. 1, 2, we're going to strike and count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great job. That's how you play whole notes. So it's a little bit different when we think about, like I said, percussion, where we just strike and the sound decays immediately. We still have to hold that note. We still have to imagine that it's 2, 3, it's continuing. We have to imagine that that whole note is holding out, because unlike a guitar, like, we can't actually sustain our notes. 2, 3, 4. So little bit different. A cymbal, if you were reading this for suspended cymbal or something, you certainly could hold like this, the note, 3, 4, and then stop it. So when you can hold a note and sustain a note, like on a cymbal, you can do that. On the snare drum, we're just striking and counting. So great job. Let's move on to another note. So the next note we're talking about here is the half note. We're going down. You'll see what I mean shortly. We started with the whole note, which was 4 beats. This one's a half note. It's got a note head here, which is the little circular part, and then a stem that goes straight up and down. So this half note has a hollow note head. It's got space. It's got a, like a donut. Again, has a hole in the middle. That's how we know it's a half note. It's not quite full. That's another way you can try to remember these at first, is that it's got the note head, a stem, but it's not full, so it must be a half note. So the half note, if the whole note was worth 4 beats, can you guess how many beats the half note would be? A whole is 4. Half might be half of 4, 2. 2 beats. So again, on a guitar or something that holds a note, you can count 1, 2. 1, 2. We can sustain it and stop. But on the drum, again, we strike and count because we don't necessarily always have sustain. So here, let's play 4 measures of half notes. And now here's where the math comes in. Half note's worth 2 beats. but there's 4 beats in a measure, so we have to play 2 half notes. We don't have to, but we're going to. We're going to play 2 half notes per measure. So 1 on beat 1, 1, 2, and then 1 on beat 3. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So let's play that on the snare, and we'll play 4 measures of that. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Last one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great job. Those are half notes. So now let's combine the whole note and the half note in this way. So we're going to play 1 measure of whole note followed by 1 measure of half notes, and then we'll just repeat that twice through. You'll catch on really easily. Here we go. Whole notes first. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Now half notes. 1, 2, 3. Whole note. 1, 2, 3. Half notes. 1, 2, 3. One more time. Whole note. 2, 3. And half notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good job. There's whole notes and half notes and how they work together. All right, we made it all the way to the quarter note. This one is a quarter note. We have our note head again, and our stem, but this time the note head's filled in. Like our half note, let's go back and look at that one real quick. See, on our half note, the note head is empty inside, and the quarter note, it's completely filled in. So that's how we know the difference between a half note and a quarter note, is that the half has the donut hole. It's not quite full, so it's half. The quarter note is completely filled in and has a stem on it. So that's what the quarter note looks like. So whole note, 4 beats. We went down to half note, 2 beats. We got to go down again to the quarter note. And if you know how many quarters are in a dollar, this will start to make sense. If you think about a dollar bill and how many quarters make up a dollar. 4 quarters make up a dollar. This is a quarter note. There's probably 4 of these in one measure. So that means each quarter note gets 1 beat. So that one's really, really simple. If we were on, and this is where we start to sort of line up with instruments that sustain and instruments that don't, because on our guitar, a measure of quarter notes is going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to sound a lot like the drum. So let's play 2 measures of quarter notes. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Now, let's backtrack a little bit and combine the quarter note and the half note. So what we're going to do is 1 measure of half notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Followed by a whole measure of quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Follow along. You'll catch on really, really easily. Here we go. Here's our half notes and quarter notes. We'll go back and forth maybe twice. 1, 2, half notes, go. 1, 2, 3, quarters. 1, 2, 3. Now half notes and quarters. Let's do that again. Half notes and quarters. Great job. So, quarter notes, they get 1 beat. There's going to be 4 in a measure. And then our half note, 2 beats, so we can fit 2 of those in a measure. All right, let's keep going. Okay, we made it down to 8th notes. We started with the whole note, which was 4 beats. Went down to a half note, which was 2. A quarter note, which was 1. So now we're going even smaller than a quarter note. And what's smaller than a quarter note is an 8th note. These are actually the same note. I'm showing you the way that they look when they're by themselves. This is what an 8th note looks like by itself. It's got a note head and a stem, just like all the other notes that we've looked at so far. But the only extra thing it has is this flag. And that flag off the back is how we know that it's an 8th note. It's got that little tail called a flag. So the reason the flag is there is so that when we connect them, when we have more than 1 8th note in the same place, they can hold hands. Their flags can connect and they stay together. Usually we see these in groups of 2 and 4 to start. You'll see those like this in groups of 2 or doubled in a group of 4. So just so you know how they look, if you see one by itself or if you see them in groups. So we're going to look at the one that's in groups here and talk about this 8th note and how it relates to the quarter note. Because the quarter note, we said, holds one place, one beat. The cool thing about 8th notes is that 2 8th notes can fit in the same space as the quarter note. So if the quarter note is 1, 2, 3, 4, how would we squeeze 2 beats in instead of 1? We would say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. We use the word and, 1 and. That's how we separate 8th notes evenly in the rhythm. There's our pulse, our quarter note, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to play 8th notes, and you can play 8th notes with me on the snare on top of this quarter note pulse. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 more times. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Great job. Cool. So there's your 8th note. Now let's do some 8th notes and some quarter notes. Let's go back to the quarter note and play a whole measure of quarters and then a whole measure of 8ths, and we'll loop that. So see if you can jump in when you get it. We'll do quarter notes first and then 8th notes. Here we go. Quarter, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2. There's our quarter notes and our 8th notes. Here we go. Quarters and 8th notes. Last time we got quarters and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Great job. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little review here of all the notes that we've learned. We've learned whole note, the half note. See if you can remember what these look like. Whole note, half note. And then we did quarter note and then 8th notes. So, little review. Whole note, how many beats? A whole measure. Any guesses? Throw them out there. How many beats is this whole note? We're going to play it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. There's our whole note. 1, 2, and we wait. Wait, good job. Half note. How many beats? It's half of our whole note. So half of 4 equals, you got it, 2. Here's our 1, 2, 1, 2. There's our half note. All right. Quarter notes. This one over here, that one's easy because 4 quarters are in $1. 4 quarter notes in a measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 8th notes. Quarter notes, and then 8th notes we can fit twice as many. And 4 and, right? So let's try to play all that together. So what I mean by that is we'll play 1 measure of whole note, 1 measure of halves, 1 measure of quarters, and then we'll finish it with our 8th notes. Here we go. Let's give it a shot. We'll start with the whole note, half, quarter, and 8th. We're using all the notes that we just learned in this brand new language, right? So here we go. Here's our tempo. We'll start off with whole notes. 1, 2, a measure of whole. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Half notes. 2, 3, 4. Now quarters and 8th notes. Starting over. Whole note. 2, 3. Then we got half notes, and quarter, 2, 3, 4, and 8th notes. One more time. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, quarters, 2, and 8. All right, you think we can do it backwards? Let's try it. Let's start with eighth notes and work our way backwards. So we'll do eighth notes, quarters, halves, and whole. This is your challenge for the day. Here we go. Eighth notes at the top. 1 and 2 and 3. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 4. Quarters. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Starting on eighths. Here we go. Quarters. 2, 3. Half notes. 1, 2. And whole note. 1, 2, 3. One more time. We got eighth notes. Quarter, 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 quarter. Half note. 2, 3, 4. And a whole note to end it. 3, 4. Great job. Hope you made it through all of those notes. Our whole, half, quarter, and eighth notes. Remember, 4 beats. We're thinking in terms of measures of 4. These will be 4 beats. 2 beats, 1 beat, and a half a beat, if you will. An eighth note, it's like half of the quarter note. We can fit 2 in the same space, so they seem like they're going by twice as fast. And that is your intro to musical notation. You can clap these, you can drum these, you can stomp them, whatever makes the most sense for you. Any way you do it still counts as practice. You can even just think about them. So make sure that while you're doing these, you are talking through the notes, counting the numbers out loud, and even tapping your foot or just playing a quarter note pulse on the bass drum will help you do that as well. All right? Nice work.